Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Corey Krieger, and this is EDS 707 Law, Policy, and Governance. This is going to be one of the final projects, presentation for the final project on campus safety and security. My name is Corey Krieger, and we get to talk about campus safety and security today. It's a very hot button issue right now in education, and that's something that obviously in the state of our world over the last 8 to 10 years, something that has really ramped up when it comes to school policy. So let's kind of get into what is campus safety and security and what are some of the measures being taken um, within schools to implement new safety protocols and procedures. So first of all, what is campus safety and security? Simply put, campus safety and security, it's a broad-ranging topic, but it involves the procedures, guidelines, and personnel used to assist schools in providing that basically there's a safe environment when students walk into a building or classroom or onto campus. This not only encompasses high schools, but colleges and universities as well. So when parents send their kids to school, they want to feel comfortable that their children are in our care. And ultimately, that's one of the ultimate goals we have as educators is that parents feel not only that we're going to educate their children, but to ensure that the safety of their children is at utmost importance, and then we get them back home to them after we've taught them something throughout the day. When most people hear the words campus safety and security, they think something like this picture. They think a police officer, they think an SRO, they think someone helping the kids cross the street. But as you're going to see, it's a much broader topic than just that particular issue. So when I started researching campus safety and security, I found out that it's not just one thing. It's a broad ranging topic. The terminology covers a variety of aspects pertaining to school operations on any particular given day. So here's just kind of a checklist of some things that can include safety and security. They include the following: students entering and leaving the building, students checking in or out, how bus routes are coordinated for safe transportation to and from campus, the duties of a school resource officer if you happen to have one on hand, what are your lockdown procedures, what does your extracurricular facility use and supervision look like if someone's on your campus after hours. What does that look like from a supervision standpoint? Is the school liable if something was to happen in that situation? All of these are things that administrators and superintendents and of course, obviously working with local law enforcement that you have to think about when you discuss campus safety and security. Then what would be the community response? Of course, this is the one that gets national headlines. What would be the community response with local law enforcement in an emergency situation? So campus security and safety is not one thing. It's a broad topic that can encompass many different things. So I just kind of went through a few of these here. The students entering and exiting the building. Once a student steps foot onto campus, they are obviously in the primary care of the teachers, faculty, staff, and administrators on duty. The procedures for checking in and out vary by age and maturity level. And this is, I found interesting. I looked up, I work at Albertville City Schools. I looked up our policy in regards to Albertville elementary schools versus the middle school and the high school. And most of this seems like common sense, but it's interesting to see it in writing. At the elementary school, students are allowed to check out only if a parent or guardian or person designated by the parents comes to pick them up and clears the checkout. So essentially, pretty self-explanatory there. To release care, you have to see the actual guardian take them from the school, and that releases you of care. There's no, again, the kid's going to leave on his own, any particular thing. That would be irresponsible for anyone under sixth grade and lower. However, the policy at the high school and middle school is essentially the same. As long a parent can call via the phone, obviously they have to pick them up and show up and all that if they're not driving age. And of course, they're allowed to check out if they're in high school. Another aspect of school safety is bus safety. And depending on the district, this is more important. in some districts than others. Some districts like Albertville have up to 80% of our students are bused to and from school. There's relatively low pickup from a parental standpoint. Not as many students drive. You have a large swath of your population being transported to and from school. So obviously this is a privilege and a convenience. You don't have to have this service. You're not required to actually have privilege to this service. The school obviously has to provide that. But of course, getting children safely to and from school remains a top priority in just about every district in the country. So coordinating these bus routes, these schedules, and having protocols in place for your busing procedure, that's part of your campus safety and security as well. Of course, getting them to and from school. This is, again, going to get a little deeper here into this, but our school resource officers some of them have come under scrutiny in recent years. Most schools are fortunate enough to have some sort of SRO. But what are their duties? An SRO is basically primarily responsible for working with the school administrators, the staff, and basically providing a safe place for the students to learn. They're highly visible. They can identify and deter trespassers on campus. They manage crowds in the mornings in cafeterias. Oftentimes, they're responsible for helping ensure a secure building. And of course, unfortunately, they're there for kind of the most tragic situations in case there is a lockdown procedure, an active shooter, an active threat of some sort, a bomb threat, whatever it may be. The SROs are kind of the liaison between local law enforcement, obviously, and the school system. So they have a very important role and function. So although this doesn't correlate exactly 100%. The court case when I talked government that I thought kind of applied to the SROs would be Safford Unified School District versus Redding. And to make it very short, because I don't want to run out of time, essentially this young girl, Miss Savannah Redding, gets called into the principal's office for thinking possibly she had ibuprofen on her. Now, you're not supposed to have ibuprofen at school. You're supposed to go to the nurse. All of those are obviously things that protocols she should have followed. Even under this suspicion, the principal directs the administrative assistant, who is a female, the assistant principal was a male, to take her into another office and basically perform a strip search. That was not found. Nothing was found. Ibuprofen was not found. Nothing was found in her backpack. Redding will sue the school district and win. Basically, this case shows me pretty simple. If you do have, although in this case it's a juvenile instance looking for ibuprofen, if you do have some sort of suspicion as an administrator, simply put, you need to contact your SRO and let them handle it. They have more legal authority than you do. They know what they're looking for. So again, your SRO is important. If it was something serious, drug paraphernalia, whatever, contact your SRO before trying to go through a legal issue and getting yourself in trouble as an administrator. Although this is not easy to talk about, probably the biggest shift in campus safety and security has followed the Virginia Tech and Parkland shootings, two very high-profile school shooting cases over the last 15 years. The unfortunate reality, I say here, is that these campus safety protocols and procedures are often in place for worst-case nightmare scenarios. At schools I've been at, we've had to go through active shooter trainings without the students present in the building. We do lockdown procedures with the students present in the building. So the students do know the unfortunate reality of these situations in case it was to come to something like that. And it can be a scary situation, even running through those drills, knowing where entry and exit points are. These are some of the things that you have to think about when you're writing your alert campus security plan. Like, is there only, and I know at my school district now, we've only allowed 2 entry and exit points once the school day has started. So there's only 2 entry and exit points. Some things that people have done in response to Virginia Tech and the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting in Parkland, Florida, things like keyed entry, buzzed entry, community response teams, and then, of course, having veteran law enforcement work with and train the faculty and staff. Quote here from Stelter, 2016, the security team's most important message to the student and staff is that they cannot wait to react. They must take action immediately. So a lot of times in these situations, it does happen quickly, and you've got to respond within a matter of minute to 30 seconds. So the debate on school safety here, these tragic events brought to light questions of what can be done to ensure a safer school environment. Attitudes on school safety have evolved over time and have conflicting views of what safety means. So some research here. Any demand for an absolutely safe school is completely irrational, according to Carman in a study in 1984. So what does safety mean? In some of these studies, such as the Virginia Tech, after the ones they basically sent out studies to 331 school districts, and of those that responded, 9 out of 10 conducted new safety audits after Virginia Tech and changed many of their policies. So what are some of these policy changes? Notification systems is probably the biggest one, having some sort of mobile phone alert system to alert both staff and possibly students. Now, obviously, that comes from a college standpoint, but I know we have a GroupMe at our school that is just for safety and security. And we did have to use it one time this year to go into lockdown when someone accidentally tripped the active shooter alarm. It was a technical malfunction, and we went into lockdown for 45 minutes. But it was good that we had that group to be able to understand those things. I've mentioned lockdown measures and entry and exit points. Again, essentially, those discussions are now being had on whether or not you should allow buzzed entry, all those types of things in remote locations in case of an emergency. Some other policy changes, of course, with the Virginia Tech, Parkland, and Newtown shootings. It raised the question as what are we doing as educators to recognize chronic mental problems that could lead to violent outbursts? Institutions began to attempt to identify prospective students whose past behavior or psychiatric care merits special attention to ensure their well-being and the well-being of others. So again, those are things that schools obviously need to do a better job of looking at mental health and mental awareness, and then actually following through with the proper channels. Some court cases that kind of correlate to this are a couple of cases, obviously, and I know this isn't fun to talk about necessarily, but a court case in which at Martinsville Middle School, a student was shot twice in the stomach, and there was threats that had been reported to the teachers, and the teachers didn't tell the administration, according to the court documents. So they sued in court, and those protocols, although they were in place, were not followed to a T by the teachers, even in the instance of this particular shooting. So the school district was actually found liable. They were held legally responsible for this shooting, or at least some of the damages to this particular family, because they didn't follow up on some of these issues. So you can, as a school district, you have to be hyper aware of those situations and know that you can be found legally responsible. Another court case, Scarlett Lewis versus Newtown Board of Education, in obviously one of the deadliest mass shootings in American history. Newtown, Connecticut, Adam Lanza will work his way in after getting through a security system. In this case, the judge rules that the safety protocols were followed, and that it's hard to force people to have some sort of scripted emergency response. So you can see both sides of that, and it's very situational as to whether or not the school end up being held reliable. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. It's not an easy thing to talk about, but if you're looking to go into administration, not be necessarily a teacher leader, but if you're looking to go into administration, understanding and having a concrete plan and using that plan of action for your teachers, and making sure your teachers know that plan is incredibly important when it comes to campus safety and security.